Welcome everyone to our release kickoff for milestone 1410. My name is David DeSanto. I'm VP of Product here at GitLab. I will be your MC today, and I'm joined by some of our team members from our amazing product leadership team. They are, in order in which they'll be presenting, Hillary Benson, Director of Product for our SEC section, who will provide SEC updates. Kenny Johnson, Senior Director of Product for the Ops section, who will be providing us our Ops updates. Josh Lambert, Director of Product for our Enablement section, will obviously be giving us our Enablement updates. And then Ulrike Golowinski, Group Manager for the Managed stage, will bring us home with Dev section updates. We are focused on delivering value iteratively with a focus on our FY23 product investment themes. They are GitLab hosted first, improve key workflow usability, and extend our lead in CI/CD. Before handing it over to Hillary, I have a short public service announcement. Think of me as a lawyer as I read this to you. So on this live stream, we will be discussing our product roadmap, which includes upcoming features and functionality. It is important to note that the information presented is for informational purposes only. Please do not rely on it for purchasing or planning decisions. We plan ambitiously here at GitLab, and all the details on this live stream are subject to change. The timing of any products, features, and functionality remain at the sole discretion of GitLab. And with that said, over to Hillary to kick us off.
Thanks, David. Just share out my screen here real quick. All right, so as is usually the case, SEC has a number of things going on in this release and is largely focused on work that supports our fiscal 23 theme of improving key workflow usability. So the static analysis team is continuing their work to transition our various language-specific open source analyzers to SemGrep. So this month they're focused on Java workloads and are migrating Java SAS coverage from spot bugs to SemGrep. As a reminder, there are various aspects of this transition to SemGrep that add value for customers. Among those are a less error-prone technology, as well as greater consistency and flexibility in the types of rules that customers can use and create across all languages rather than managing bespoke rules within individual language-specific analyzers. Static analysis is also hard at work on a variety of items required for Fips 140-2 compliance. So for anyone who's unaware, Fips 140-2 is a government standard that lays out a set of requirements around the use of cryptographic modules by software products for security purposes. So there are a number of teams across GitLab right now who are working toward meeting these requirements. The Secure and Protect teams are among them. The reason this is an area of focus is because, in effect, complying with Fips 140-2 requirements demonstrates to government agencies that private companies are kind of meeting an appropriately high bar for their security standards. And then complying with 140-2 is also required as part of larger certification efforts, such as FedRAMP, which is of key importance to federal government customers. Dynamic analysis team is working this milestone to solve some pain points in the on-demand DAS configuration workflow. So the goals here are to improve learnability and to make it easier to customize from the configuration workflow how and when a given asset should be scanned, as well as which types of vulnerabilities the scanner should highlight, which makes it easier to reduce the noise associated with irrelevant DAS findings. Additionally, the dynamic analysis team is working on continuing to mature out our browser-based DAS scanner by continuing to deliver additional passive vulnerability checks this release. Composition analysis team is hard at work this month on giving customers the ability to export a software bill of materials from GitLab in CycloneDX format. CycloneDX is just one of two of the most popular standard formats used to produce software bill of materials. And the point of an SBOM is to provide a comprehensive inventory of all the components that make up your software, as well as any security issues that are associated with those components. So from the customer perspective, SBOMs provide kind of key visibility into open security issues that require their attention. And it's also a key component in our broader story around software supply chain security. The Threat Insights team is wrapping up work to enforce validation of security reports. The purpose of this work is to avoid errors and also ensure proper communication between our various security scanning tools that are running in pipeline jobs and our vulnerability management capabilities. So in 14.7, all security reports output by the various scanners were required to use a new schema. And then this milestone in 14.10, users will start to see warning notices if any of those security reports aren't using that schema. And then after 15.0, any reports that use an unsupported schema version or fail to pass validation will not be ingested. The container security team is continuing work on their scan result policies. So this month, the focus is on workflow changes that will allow customers to view security approval policies in the same location as merge request approvals. So if you take a look at this, this is sort of what this looks like. So in the same place that you're looking at approval roles, you can see security policies as well. And then finally, the container security team is also working on incorporating the GitLab advisory database as an additional data source for the container scanning analyzer. So this will give customers the ability to detect vulnerabilities that are discovered by our in-house vulnerability research team. And those are the highlights of what Secure and Protect are up to this release. With that, I'll hand it over to Kenny to take us through what Ops is working on this month.
Awesome, thanks, Hillary. Yeah, my name is Kenny. I'm going to be covering the Ops section. As a reminder, the Ops section includes the stages of verify, package, release, configure, and monitor. Before we talked about some of the exciting things that we're working on in the 14.10 release, I did want to take a moment to pause and say thank you to the entire Ops section. Over the last 6 months, we've had a heavy focus on security, efficiency, reliability, and scalability across the platform. And we've seen that pay off not just in our DevOps platform being able to scale for our users and a reduction of the cost to run that platform for our users, but we've also seen usage increase throughout. In fact, in February, we saw some of the highest usage numbers we've ever seen, which shows that there's a real buy-in to the complete DevOps platform as we see usage span, not just verify, but package, release, configure, and monitor, and adoption across all 5. So great work, team. To talk about some of the specifics, most of these fall in our FY23 theme of extend our lead in CI. So I'm going to jump into first up, our CI/CD component catalog. So we've been working on problem validation for our component catalog for the last couple of releases, and we're going to start on solution validation this release, including a number of POCs and spikes. I wanted to show you some of the early designs, including a front page that shows the ability to select common and search for what we're calling blocks, an ability to page through and view by category common blocks for performing common tasks in your CI/CD pipelines, and then finally a view of what one specific block will be, including easy tools for utilizing that block in your CI/CD pipeline. Really excited about this. Not just for new users who are adopting GitLab CI/CD for the first time, but also for organizations to create their own catalogs and enable their users to select from their kind of best practice templates right within their own internal catalog. Also in the CI group, we're going to be working on a really commonly requested feature, which is the ability to trigger pipelines based on when draft status is removed. So commonly you can write rules that determine when pipeline jobs are run, but it's been difficult in the past to distinguish between a job that was for a merge request that was still in draft state. Doing so enables you to do things like run maybe your basic linting on draft MRs and save more advanced unit tests for when the draft is removed. You can now do that. After 14.0, you'll be able to do that using the common rules syntax. I'm really excited about this issue, and it's got a number of upvotes from our community. The next couple of items are going to be in our runner fleet vision. So as a reminder, one of our big investment themes for FY23 is improving the ability to manage large fleets of runners that are increasingly utilized for running complex CI/CD jobs. So the first step is going to be improving the edit view of runners. So today you edit runners in the admin view, but we're going to be creating a initial view so that when you edit them, you get a kind of full page experience, and we plan to use this view to add additional things that you can add to runners, such as maintenance notes or other details about the runner that aren't included today. And we're also going to be moving to have the group view of runner management happen not in the admin area. This will make it more discoverable. So we'll have it right inside your group left nav pane that you can manage runners, and then also have a more comprehensive view, a more full view of the runners so that you can manage them more robustly from that group view. Really excited about these two sets of capabilities that enable more robust enterprise management of a fleet of runners. The next set of improvements that I want to highlight are all around improving the deployment experience. The first one is about improving the registration process for our Kubernetes agent. Kubernetes agent is a really fundamental piece of technology that we began work on about a year ago and is now fundamental to how we envision management of Kubernetes workloads within GitLab. The process for installing and registering that agent, though, used a Docker-based install, and we're going to be moving that to Helm because we found that users had that more readily available, and it will improve the experience of agent installation and registration immensely. We're also going to be improving the way that you manage environments in GitLab. We've announced in previous releases that you can determine the tier of an environment, so whether it's production, staging, or testing, for example. And we're going to begin displaying that in the environments page alongside the environment. You can see an example here where the main branch has a specific environment that's labeled as production, and others are labeled as staging and testing. We're also going to be improving the design of the approval requests for deployments. So in 14.8, we added the ability to have specific approvals and approval comments when performing a deployment approval. We also want to make sure that if you're assigned a deployment to approve, that you get notified. And so we're going to be adding approval notifications to your to-do list within GitLab. Here's an example of that here, where with a nice to-do showcasing that there's a pending production deployment for Chris to approve. We're also going to be working on review apps. So today, when you're review apps are a really powerful piece of technology within the GitLab platform that enables active collaboration on temporary versions of an application based on the code that's under review. The review app today, though, is sometimes hard to find within a merge request. So we're going to be improving the consistency of exactly where a review app appears, the link to a review app appears in an MR. And we're also going to be improving the process for enabling review apps by giving much more robust installation and setup documentation so that users can quickly add review apps into their pipelines. Those are the things that I'm really excited about across the ops section, focused on our FY theme of extending our lead in CI/CD. With that, I will hand it over to Josh to talk about enablement highlights.
Thanks, Kenny. Those are some really exciting highlights, and I can't wait for them. I will also jump into, as Kenny mentioned, our enablement section highlights here. I'll be focusing on the GitLab hosted first theme for this particular kickoff video, but we do have a lot of other great changes and features coming. So please do, if you have time, take a look at our kickoff video playlist to review in more detail all of our groups. So with that, let's jump into the key highlights supporting GitLab hosted first from enablement for this release. The first one is in our advanced search group, and our desire is to be compatible with the latest Elasticsearch and OpenSearch versions. Today, we have support for the 7.x branch and the 6.8 branches of Elasticsearch or versions, and those are getting to be old. And so we want to make sure we can give our customers support for the newer Elasticsearch versions, 8.x, as well as also have support for those who want it for OpenSearch. Our customers are looking for both. So we are looking to add some additional investigation and work in this current release with the goal of adding official support in 15.0 because we will have to deprecate 6.x support in order to support these newer versions. So keep that in mind, but we are looking forward to adding support for these new versions as well. We think it's worth it. From there, we can move on to our distribution group, and we are working on some improved vertical scalability in a particular part of our application that talks to the database. So PG Bouncer effectively is like a routing layer between our application and the database. And when you only have one instance, it can only take advantage of one core of the machine. And as probably many of you know, a lot of our newer machines, even your laptops, have multiple cores. And so this can lead to relatively inefficient use of the hardware. And so we are adding support to have multiple instances of PG Bouncer running on a single piece of hardware to better make use of that before having to go and scale out horizontally if you don't need to. So some nice efficiency improvements there with this change. From there, we can move on to our memory group, who is working on moving our metrics collection process out of our main kind of application core, if you will. So right now, for example, with Puma, that's our web server. We actually do a lot of the metrics collection inside of our web server process. And so if there's any problems with that metrics collection, it can affect the overall ability to serve web pages, which isn't great. And so we are in this release working to just move that metrics collection process out of the main Puma process or web server process to make it more available and resilient. So if it is a problem, it doesn't affect the rest of the core delivery job, if you will, of serving web pages. So looking forward to that, and then we'll work to continue to optimize this process. But the key goal here is moving it out first. From there, we are also continuing our journey to move all of our data types for a Jira application over to our self-service framework. This is a framework that has all the features for replication, verification, and it's all common, as opposed to the previous model of having kind of one-off code for every single data type, which wasn't very scalable. And so we've got a lot of efficiency improvements out of moving to this framework, and we want to go ahead and just continue to move all the data types over to it. And so we're going through and adding support, or migrating, if you will, the project and wikis in this milestone. And if we have some more time, we'll pick up a couple others as well. We're nearing the end here and looking forward to having all of our data types moved over so we can focus on some other work as well. From there, moving to our database group, and we are continuing our work on batched background migrations. We built this tool to help with our large PK migration we did last year, which was very successful. And we effectively built a much more robust database migration tool for Rails code. And so we like to make this the default for all changes in GitLab, as well as ultimately long-term likely contribute this back upstream. It allows you to automatically tune how fast migration should run based on overall database changes, but it also can be stopped and restarted as well as needed, which is really nice. And so we're going through and doing a number of items here to help support our version 1.0 for this release. From there, we are also continuing to work to help throttle large data changes. And to start off with, we'll be doing this work inside of that kind of batch by migration service. And so what we like to do is, if we see a lot of database change happening at once, more so than the database can handle, we can automatically slow it down and wait for it to pick up. So we're working on this to help prevent potential degradations of the service if we have a sort of overzealous migration happening in the first pass here. And from them, we'll look to apply it to other places where we can do large changes here in the future. So looking forward to that to help improve our overall availability of our large instances like GitLab.com. So that's it for the enablement section. And I'd like to hand it over to Arit to talk about dev.
Thanks, Josh. Lots of things to look forward to. I'm especially looking forward to the database batch migration. So my name is Arit, and I'm the group product manager for the managed stage. I will highlight some of the things that the dev section is going to be working on. The groups are working on a lot of things, but I'm capped in time, so I don't have time to go through all the great initiatives. So if you are really interested, please check out the individual planning issues or direction pages for further information. And I'll get started. So aligned to our themes, the GitLab hosted first theme, the workspace team is working on API support for user management. This lays down the foundation for bulk actions on users. And in this iteration, we're going to allow changing max roles of users for a group. So we will continue building on this, but this lays down that foundation for actions on multiple users. Many of the dev section groups are working on high priority security, Fips compliance, and performance issues aligned to this theme. And for the next theme, we're going to talk about improving key workflow usability. So the authentication and authorization group is working on adding password policy settings and really making it configurable to make complex password settings. So before, in the settings, you could create the minimum password length. In this milestone, we're going to add allowing to configure different complexity settings like numbers, uppercase, and so on. And when a user inserts their password for the first time, it will also have a validation that tells you whether or not this complies to the new password policy. Moving over to the integrations team, they're going to be working on migrating the GitLab Slack app from a classic app to a granular bot permission app. And this effort is going to allow us to move away from the deprecated classic app and start adding new features and capabilities like granular notifications for channels and direct messages, and update our authentication workflows that allow us to enable link previews for private repos. Moving on to the compliance team. The compliance group is going to be finishing the work to improve the user experience for the compliance report, which you can see right here. The compliance report is now going to display all individual merge request violations that have occurred in projects over time. And this is net new information since we previously only showed the latest merge requests. that had any violations, this is also going to show us historical violations. So really excited about that. The product planning team is working on confidential notes, and they're going to bring this over the finish line and get it ready for GA. This is a community contribution that was never finished, but and has been behind the feature flag for quite a while. This feature allows users to create comments that can only be viewed by members of a project with specific roles. So it looks something like this in terms of the UI. And wrapping this up and releasing it also aligns with an internal OKR that we have to reduce the number of feature flags and draft features that we have in our product. So really exciting to see this become GA. Our Giddily group is going to be working on an MVC for incremental backup solution, which is really, really cool. Full backup consumes system resources and it takes a really long time to execute. And sometimes that even causes the system to be unusable and unstable. So incremental backup is really exciting, and it's going to be an MVC. We're really excited to get some feedback from our Giddily cluster users for this. And last, tying into our last theme for extending our lead in CI/CD, the optimized team is adding our fourth metric. This is going to complete the whole series of our DORA 4 metrics for API support. This adds API support for change failure rate, and the change failure rate is calculated as the percentage of deployments that cause a degradation of service. And monitoring this will allow teams to get observability and continuously improve in their stability metrics. So really excited to see the dev section contribute to all the different themes, and I'm going to pass it back to you, David.
Great, and thank you, presenters. We had another really great kickoff call today. There are lots of great things coming. As Reed said, there's not enough time for me to highlight them all for you. I shouldn't have enough time to go over the dev section, nor did Kenny, Hillary, or Josh for their sections, but here are a couple that jumped out to me by theme. For GitLab hosted first, compatibility for Elasticsearch and OpenSearch with Advanced Search. Geo moving data types, existing data types to our self-service framework. Batch database background migrations, and API support for user management. And improve keyword flow usability, support SBOM export into Cyclone DX, DAST on-demand configuration workflow changes, allow customers to view security approval policies alongside their merge request approval roles, confidential comments on issues, epics, and merge requests, and rollout of an MVC for our Giddily backup or incremental backup solution. And our last theme, and maybe we can use Kenny's new name for today, which is accelerate our lead in CI/CD. We have the CI catalog design with the POCs to validate it. Looked very cool in the screenshots. I look forward to seeing the output. Add a runner group view, simplify the agent registration process. And the last one that I already touched on, which is completion of our DORA 4 metrics with the addition of an API for change failure rate. Again, we went through a lot of stuff today. Please check out the release kickoff page for a full list of items. Also, feel free to engage and collaborate by leaving comments and liking them as you review them. And as always, thank you everyone for watching and joining this release kickoff. Have a great day.